Slowly the epidural wore off across my body. And I'm saying to them, I can feel half of this and I can feel, and they checked, and for some reason, we don't know why, the epidural just stopped working on me.
From Mamamia, I'm Mia Friedman, and you're listening to a special update episode of No Filter. We get a lot of feedback about a lot of the people that we interview, and so we thought that since the show's been going for 300 episodes now, it might be time to pop back and revisit some of those people and hear what's going on in their lives. And we're going to start today with an episode that actually wasn't recorded that long ago, just back at the start of the year. And it was an episode where I interviewed Leigh Campbell. She's our executive editor here at Mamamia. And for many, many years, Leigh kept a secret. It was about her fertility and the struggles that she had to fall pregnant. Leigh and her husband Rich had been trying to have a baby for so many years. They had countless rounds of IVF, failed attempts, and miscarriages that almost broke them. Here's how Leigh described that time.
Many women I know have gone 9, 12, 15 rounds, but for us, that was it.
Had you decided this is our last go?
We'd always said 3, and, we'd talked a lot about it, what it meant to us, and, selfishly I wanted our baby to be half of us each, so we weren't looking at egg donor at that stage. We spent most of our savings. I'd been very sick. It just... We weren't happy now, and we thought we need to be happy now. So we decided to call it a day, and we went to our fertility doctor and we had our final kind of, debrief. She went through all 48 embryos and explained that where they hadn't worked along the process was an indication to egg quality. It wasn't a good picture. And so we thought, okay, well, it's not for us. But that's hard. So, yeah, we called it. Although at that... The kind of final chat with my fertility doctor, I mentioned a drug my friend was on, and I said, my friend's on this breast cancer drug, and apparently it makes you ovulate lots of eggs, so it increases your chances. She was like, oh yeah, she explained it to me, but I think from her reaction she was thinking with everything else you've got going on, it's, probably not going to work, but she prescribed it to me, very affordable drug. And so, yeah, we tried it, and it wasn't a very nice drug. I didn't like it. I felt all kinds of things and I thought, hang on, I've sort of felt like this before. And so I did a pregnancy test and I was pregnant at the time. The test said yes. I called Rich into the bathroom and he had such a strong reaction. He said, we're not doing this anymore. I can't go through this again. When we lose this baby, I can't see you like that. And I said, yeah, I agree. Yeah, we're not doing this anymore. So I went to the doctor that day and confirmed the pregnancy with a blood test and called my fertility doctor and said, I'm pregnant, I think that breast cancer drug worked. And she said, okay, cautious, congratulations, let's monitor you. So they did a blood test every 3 days.
The part where he said, and you both said, yeah, we can't do this.
Yeah.
What did that mean? Just that you had to voice, we're not going to celebrate and we're not going to get too invested in this?
Celebrating wasn't even an option. Having a positive pregnancy test didn't say to me I was having a baby. It just thought, here we go again, this is going to really hurt, particularly knowing the natural killer cells and all the things. I just thought, oh God, why are we even still trying? We're just setting ourselves up for more heartbreak. And so, no, celebrating, it wasn't a happy moment at all. And I was just waiting. And so I had a blood test every 3 days to confirm that my levels were rising until we could get to the 7-week scan, the very earliest scan they can check for a heartbeat. Oh, God, and that day I just thought, I was so mad at myself for still, getting pregnant again because I thought I can't be heartbroken again. And so we went along to the viability scan, they called it at 7 weeks, and I just remember, I think, holding my breath and closing my eyes and just thought, it's okay, you've done this heaps of times, you'll be fine. You'll have the D&C tonight, it's no problem, you'll be off work for 2 days. And then when I opened my eyes, there was this tiny little flicker on the screen. It looks like a tiny blob. And I said, what's that? She said, that's the heartbeat. And I was like, wait, no, wait. Tell me, is that a heartbeat of a baby? And she said, yeah. And she, obviously, this woman didn't know my history, so she probably thought I was strange. And it was a heartbeat at 7 weeks, which was amazing. And, by this stage, my mum's calling me every day, and my close friends that knew were just so incredible. But, of course, I'm still just waiting to miscarry every day. And then we got to 12 weeks, or the 12-week, 13-week viability scan, and there was a heartbeat. And then at that stage, they also check, the valves of the heart and the eyes and the lungs. And there was this tiny little baby that was what they, say is fine, technically viable, and we're having this baby. And we did the harmony test where they check for Down syndrome and all that sort of stuff. And I remember I took the call in your office, actually. You weren't there. But she called and said, you're low risk, you're fine. And I said, wait, check you've got my file.
It's Leigh Campbell.
Yes. And then I just burst into tears, and thank God your office is next to the lift. I had to go and sit in the park and cry my eyes out, and I just couldn't believe it.
Many of you have asked me about how Leigh has been going, and I think it's true to say we have all been collectively holding our breath through every day of her pregnancy. Nobody more so than Leigh and her husband Rich. And I'm happy to tell you that midway through June, just over 3 weeks ago, Leigh and Rich welcomed a healthy little boy called Alexander. But just like the years leading up to his birth, things did not go quite according to plan. Do they ever? A few days ago, Leigh came back into Mamamia to speak to Holly Wainwright, who's the host of our family life podcast, This Glorious Mess. And I'm going to play you a part of that conversation now. But before I do, I know that Leigh would want me to say that if you are going through the pain of having empty arms right now and you feel like your heart is breaking and that everyone in the world is pregnant or a mother or full of joy except you, well, Leigh and I both know how you feel. We get it. We've been there. And please know that our arms and the arms of millions of other women who have experienced this very specific type of pain and grief are wrapped around you and holding you up. Here's Leigh.
So you go into hospital to be induced at 8 p.m.
Yes.
And what happens?
So induced at 8, it was very efficient. I had what's called the gel. I don't know what kind of gel it is, but a gel is put into your cervix to start the hormones and simulate what would happen naturally. So that was in by 9. That's not the funnest part, to be honest. They're getting their hands really right up there to get into the cervix. It's not just kind of like popping a tampon in. Liz is shaking her head.
Producer Liz, who is the person in the room who has not yet had a baby, is going, whereas I'm like, yeah.
And look, that was just the start. But of course, you're still a little bit prudish at the start. And, you've just taken all your clothes off and what's to come. And then you're like, sure. Everyone have a look, whatever. But gelling at 9 and you wait 6 hours. So
they tell you to go for a walk and stuff, don't they? Well, they did me, I remember, because I was induced with Billy, and it's like, go and walk around the hospital. I can still remember just walking up and down these bloody hospital corridors.
Correct. And of course, all the natural things apply, like gravity but it was nighttime. So they said, go to sleep. I said, Rich, you go home because likely nothing's going to happen till the morning. Just keep your phone on. And then they came back in at 3 a.m. to check. And of course I haven't slept at all. I'm so excited. I'm so nervous. And the gel kind of induces what I would call kind of moderate period pain. So you're like, oh, stuff's happening. Okay, this is exciting. And they come back in at 3 a.m. and they check and they're like, oh, not a huge amount. It's happened. You're a tiny bit dilated. Let's do gel again. So then you have to wait another 6 hours. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. That brings us up to, I think, about 9 a.m. So by that stage, Rich is back. My parents are there because the plan was to have my mum at the birth. Thank God she wasn't in the end because at this stage they're coming in, you've got monitors on your belly. They're monitoring your heart rate, the baby's heart rate. And every time I would move, it would come off the baby's heart rate. And there's mum in the corner going, oh, my God, the baby's heart rate. Oh my God.
No.
And I said, Mum, I need game face because whatever I see on your face, it alarms me.
Yeah, of
and
course.
then she's saying to my husband, what are they saying? Because she's half deaf about the nurses. And so I thought, oh, God, I can't have Mum here for this. But anyway.
So how did you have to ask her to leave?
I didn't then, but when push came to shove, not real push, but we'll get to that, it was the middle of the night and she was down the road because they live, not close to the hospital. And I chose not to call her because I was stressed and it was an emergency in the end, but we'll get to that. But 9 a.m, that was 2 gels and they checked and they tried to break my waters by that stage, but they couldn't quite get there. Not a lot was happening. That part's not particularly fun.
No, it's kind of like a knitting needle thing with a hook on it.
Correct. And they're kind of fishing around to try and pop this balloon.
Liz is now, I think Liz would now please like to leave the recording. And she's like producers going, can I just leave this thing running?
I know, you could. And the funny thing is at this stage, I'm still very much in my Leigh Campbell type A work mode. So I'm like, right, well, my family have all got the day off. As you know, my family's very close. We've always been at every birth of everyone. We've got a family conch that's blown at every birth and every death. And so the family is waiting to get the call to come to the hospital. So I'm like, look, how long is this going to take? You didn't break my waters. Are we doing gel again? I've got to text my WhatsApp group. And they're like, okay, lady.
They're like, this lady is managing this.
And so I'm texting my sisters saying, okay, no, they're using a chopstick, it's not working, gel on for another 6 hours.
And all this time you're having like moderate pain but not
moderate pain.
Contractions.
Well, on the screen it looked like contractions. Yeah, moderate pain that was coming and going. So pre-labour contractions. And by this stage, by the third gel, my parents were still with us. We were in the birthing suite, obviously. We were getting up and going for walks outside, going for a coffee, coming back, they'd check. And so that took us to about 4 p.m. And by that stage, I was a little bit dilated, and what I thought were contractions, which were pre-labour contractions, were pretty hectic.
Hurts, right?
It hurts. And I was like, wow, women that really go into active labour without drugs, because I wanted an epidural and I knew I was having it, and it said on my card, I'm having an epidural as soon as she asked for it. And they're great like that. And so at 4 o'clock, they said, okay, let's see how you go. Keep going until you really want the epidural. Let's try to get to 8 p.m. The parents are still there. So by this stage, it's been about 24 hours. Didn't really sleep because I was so excited. And then around 7, I was like, okay, I need the epidural now. It was these pre-labour contractions are pretty hardcore. And I thought I was pretty tough because I've got endo and I know period pain, but I was kind of being a bit nasty to Rich and my parents at that stage because they were just lolling and having a great time. And I'm like, guys. And so I said at 7, okay, I need the epidural. And they said, can you wait till 8? And I was like, no, I want it now.
Well, they wanted you to wait because obviously they want it to last the maximum amount of time.
Yeah,
right?
They weren't trying to push any sort of natural labour on me. No. They just knew that my cervix had a long way to go. And so they didn't want me, once you're on the bed, once you have an epidural.
You can't get up and move around.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. You have a catheter, you can't go to the toilet, you can't get up and walk around. And obviously gravity really helps with labour. So they want you to do that as long as possible. But I said, nah, give it to me. And then they make things happen very quickly. So my parents left to go back to the hotel at that stage, and I'm lying there, and the epidural was crazy to me. Like, it's like such a specific thing. Like, it's like a Mission Impossible. So they're lying on the side telling you, they do it in between contractions, telling you not to move. They put it into your spine.
Were you frightened?
I trusted the guy. My obstetrician said, this guy's done my epidurals. He does all the obstetricians' epidurals. So I trusted him. But it was really quite an involved process. I didn't realise. They do both sides. They say, okay, an electric shock's going down your leg now. You're going to feel this. Don't jump. So, of course, you jump because you're like, oh, God.
Because they're trying to get a needle, a big needle, in exactly the right place.
Exactly the right place into your spine to basically paralyse you from the waist down. Not paralyse you. You can feel things, but you can't walk.
Yes.
You can feel sensation, but you don't feel any pain. So that was quite confronting, but then it kicked in and, oh, my God, it was heaven. I loved it.
I haven't had one.
Oh, it was great.
So
I imagine it's like heroin.
Do you immediately just everything stops?
Everything just feels fuzzy, and although I felt extremely itchy everywhere. No one warns you. And I said to the
like
nurse,
a junkie.
Yes. I said to the nurse, I'm very itchy. And she said, yeah, that's common. I was like, okay. So by this stage, it's night 2. They've rolled out this fold out for poor Rich that was like sleeping on a crosscut. It was horrific for the poor guy, but whatever, I'm in labour. You can just suck it up.
Deal. Are you like watching telly on your phones? Like, how are you making time pass?
Well, once the epidural was in, and they'd been giving me Panadine for the last 24 hours, I was sleepy because I hadn't slept the night before. So they said, and I was like, great, because once the epidural was in, they were doing the third thing, which is the drip. So the drip's what really simulates your hormones and you go into labour. So I was like, right, let's get this baby out. And then they said, no, you're going to go to sleep now. The drip will start slowly. The baby will come in the morning. I was like, oh, that doesn't really suit me.
And my family. My WhatsApp group and my conch.
Right?
It's not working.
But had it been born that day, it would have been a Gemini. And I wanted a Cancer. And I'd said that to my obstetrician and she didn't enjoy that. They don't really believe in star signs, I don't think.
I love that.
So anyways, they said, no, the baby will probably come in the morning. We'll keep you posted. And I was like, okay. So Mum and Dad had gone home. Rich was trying to get some sleep. I was very sleepy and in a lovely epidural haze. So I was, just kind of lying there and trying to sleep. And then at about 2 a.m., I felt sort of like a slither of pain down my left side. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Just one little bit. And I'm looking on the monitor and obviously you can see the contractions, but you can't feel them with an epidural. But I could feel it just in that few centimetres. And then that few centimetres widened. Oh, no. And slowly, it was like out of a movie, slowly the epidural wore off across my body. And I've got the buzzer thingy to top it up every 15 minutes. I'm buzzing it like a mad woman. And I'm saying to them, I can feel half of this and I can feel, and they checked. And for some reason, we don't know why the epidural just stopped working on me.
Wow.
It was going in.
Is that something that happens?
I guess.
Or are you just very
I'm just so lucky that it stopped working. By this stage, I'm 5 centimetres, so I'm halfway, but I've still got a ways to go, obviously. And I'm told, I'm not a wuss, I'm told that the drip that it simulates birth makes contractions more painful than normal. And contractions normally, I can imagine, are extremely painful. So at 5 centimetres,
of course you're not a wuss.
But, oh my Lord, I could not. And I was just gripping the blanket on the bed to get through these contractions. And you can see them on the screen. So it's like knowing that someone's going to hurt you every few minutes.
And then when they pass, afterwards you're like, the most enormous relief, but then you know it's coming back. Yeah. So it's like dread.
The relief was like, that was fine. I can do that again. But then as it's coming back, it's like a train coming towards you. And so at this stage, I'm like, right, what's going to happen? Because they're trying to work out what's going on with the epidural. And I'm like, I can't do 5 more centimetres like this. I mean, of course I could have, but I was like, what's ahead of me? And then this is where I started to get a little bit panicked, and the midwife was fantastic. She was calling my obstetrician. It was 3 something in the morning by this stage. And then we were watching the heart rate, and my baby's heart rate was going up and up and up. I don't think they told me at this stage, but he was posterior, so which is fine to deliver, but he was facing upwards instead of downwards. Still head first, but upwards. So just a harder delivery. But they had planned on, trying to make that work. And then his heart rate was going up, and I think it was sitting around 140 most of the time. It was up to 190, and my fever had skyrocketed. I developed a fever and it had skyrocketed really quickly. And they said, look, this baby's trying to get out. It can't.
Oh, baby.
And I just was beside myself. And I said, okay.
How were you crying? Like,
I wasn't crying.
Do you remember that moment?
I do.
What you were saying?
I was just saying, is the baby okay? Is the baby okay? And they kept saying the baby's absolutely fine. This is quite common. The baby's safe. That's all I cared about.
And what was Rich doing?
He was just kind of a bit in awe, I think, because I think after watching someone get an epidural, that's pretty hectic, watching, needles in spines and stuff. He just wanted whatever I wanted. And they said very calmly, your baby's in distress. It's probably not going to come out this way. We have to do an emergency cesarean. I said, yep, great. Also, because I wanted the baby up, I didn't want to feel another contraction.
If you want to hear Leigh's full interview and the blow-by-blow description of her birth, it was so good. Follow the link in our show notes or search for This Glorious Mess in your podcast app. And while you are there, you should subscribe. And as I said, if you or anyone you know has been through pregnancy loss or infertility, we see you. Here at Mamamia, we have compiled a free downloadable book. It's an ebook. It's called Never Forgotten. And it's a book of first-person stories from other women who've been through similar experiences of loss. I compiled this book along with my close friend Rebecca Sparrow, who had a little girl called Georgie who was stillborn. And Beck and I met, I guess. Our bond of friendship was forged in the fire of our mutual loss. We were introduced by friends that we had in common. And we wanted to do something because you feel so helpless when someone you know is going through a tough time, or when you are. We know that from experience, the only thing you want to do is read other women's stories and hear from other women who know how you feel. So if someone in your life is going through it, you might want to send them a link or download this book and send it to them. We've also made a closed Facebook group. It's called Never Forgotten, and it's for women who are coping with loss, and it's full of love and support 24/7. As I said, if anyone you know could benefit from knowing about these resources, we've put links to both of them in the show notes for this episode, or you can follow the link in my Instagram bio. Leigh has also written about her infertility and her pregnancy in a story on Mamamia, and we've popped a link in the show notes for that too. So much goodness in the show notes. To everyone out there who's struggling and who's had emotions washed up and around them by this episode, hang in there, and lots of love. And if there's someone that you heard me interview on No Filter over these past few years and you'd like to hear an update from them, let me know by dropping me a line at podcast@mamamia.com.au. This episode is produced by Liza Ratliff.